Now let's talk about this artwork, but with reference to all of the stuff that's going around in this scene. The vocabulary word that I want to introduce you to is iconography. 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 It means the study of symbolic meaning of objects, persons, or events depicted in works of art. If it helps you to understand where this word comes from, icon is Greek for image, and graphy is Greek for writing. So what we're doing when we study the iconography is we're reading what is written in the images. And there's a lot going on in this scene. What Albrecht Dürer has populated paradise with are cats, rabbits, oxen, elk, those adorable birds and that mountain goat up there and this parrot. So they must have some significance. Snake is part of the story of Adam and Eve, but still. So we're going to walk around this piece and we're going to look at it in more detail. But first, before we get into iconography, so I mentioned about it and what Albrecht Dürer was doing with his showing off. Now, it's really small, but you know what's also really special about this piece is that we have his artist proofs. What? Here we're looking at one, 2, and 3. Here, what if I just sit here? Okay, look here. 1, 2, and 3. This is a draft, another draft, and the final draft. We have prints of him working on that engraving plate. So as he was engraving on the copper plate, he wants to see, he wants to visualize, like, am I making it too dark, or do I need to put in some more elements here? He does a rough draft print. You can see here how he was working on Adam's leg, and he's kind of dotted out where he's mapped out where he's going to put the other figures. So he's like, okay, I need to see, is that going to be okay? Is that good looking? And then our second print, you can see that he has finished out Adam's leg. So he's trying it out again. Okay, is this too dark? Is this too light? Do I need to change things up? And then his final print. So think of this just like you as rough drafts, right? Or draft 1, version 2. These are not versions, but they are prints that are checking his work along the way. Okay, I just had to show you that because it's extremely cool that we have these artist proofs. Let's go back to our idea of iconography. So what he's doing with those various animals in the scene is he's making reference to something referred to as the four humors. Now the four humors are elements that the Greeks, the Romans, and into the medieval world and the Renaissance were understood to be a balance of elements in the body. The idea being if you have equal amounts of all four of these elements, you're in good health. If you have too much or too little of one or more of these elements, that's when you fall into ill health. They didn't understand bacteria or viruses at the time. Now, the four elements of the body are related to the four elements of earth: fire, earth, water, and air. I know, it's like Aang in The Last Airbender, right? Avatar, The Last Airbender. That's what I always think of. But it's the same idea. And these four elements of the earth are represented within the human body in the form of yellow bile, black bile, phlegm, and blood. So you can see in this chart here. Now, not only was this used as reference to diseases, why one might fall ill, it also made reference to your personality. You might have too much blood and be very passionate. You might have too much black bile and be very melancholic or sad. This relates to Albrecht Dürer in that these four elements and these four humors are also represented by a cat, a rabbit, an elk, or an ox, and an elk. And because we are highly educated and we know how to appreciate Victor's work, we would immediately recognize, oh, he's put the 4 elements, the 4 animals, the 4 humors. Now, again, remember, if they're all in balance, then it's all good. It's harmony. Now, we look at these, and just for your own curiosity, the cat is associated with yellow bile. The elk is associated with black bile. The rabbit is associated with blood. And the ox is associated with phlegm. Now, in terms of your body, yellow bile is like all of your stomach and juices. Black bile is all of your lower intestine goo. Phlegm, it's all your clear stuff, all your mucus. And then blood is obviously blood. So if you have a balance of those in your body, you're good to go. Now, I told you that this also is associated with personalities. Okay, if you have too much yellow bile in your body, you might be like the cat. You need to be in control. You're dominant. You require and appreciate respect. You need excitement. You're very proud. You're very confident. You're very strong, but you're also very stubborn and you're very defiant. Does that sound like you? Then you might have too much yellow bile and you're just like a cat. What if you have too much black bile? If you have too much black bile, then you're like the elk and you need alone time. You need things to be perfect or in order. You need to understand things. You tend to be very creative and very sensitive, but you can also be very pessimistic and tend to be introverted. Does that sound like you? You might have too much black bile and you're like that elk. What if you have too much phlegm? If you have too much phlegm, then you might be like the ox. The ox needs stability. It needs routine. It requires things to be predictable. The person with too much phlegm, they tend to be submissive and shy and quiet, but they're also very good listeners and they're very trustworthy. Is that you? You got too much phlegm? And then last, if you have too much blood, you're hot like a rabbit. If you're too much blood, you need social company and friends. You need lots of attention. You need entertainment. You're very positive and you're very outgoing, but you can also be a little too chatty and unreliable. Is that you? Okay, so maybe we can share that information later. So, the 4 humors. There they are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now remember where we're at. We're in heaven. We're in paradise. Everything is in harmony. All of these 4 creatures are in balance. Adam and Eve are in balance. Everything is perfect, right? But, this is also the moment when the snake, the devil in the form of a snake, convinces Eve to convince Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge. And when that happens, everything's going to go terribly wrong. What we see down here, a cat. Yes, that is the cat for blood, but it's also looking at a mouse. Do cat and mice get along? No. So what we see is a brewing conflict, a war. Just like Adam and Eve, a brewing conflict. Now, to tie this even further to Adam and Eve, notice their tails. The cat's tail is wrapping around Eve. She is associated with this cat. The tail of the mouse next to Adam. He is associated with the mouse. I roll my eyes because it's basically the argument that Eve tricked Adam. She's the predator. He's just this little mouse. He was just the victim. All right, it gets even worse. Get up here. The snake is often in reference to Eve and her trickery, tricking poor little Adam. And then look at what's associated with Adam, a parrot. Well, parrots are birds, but parrots also are very intelligent and they can speak. So parrots, in terms of iconography, parrots are often associated with intelligence, and that intelligence is attached to Adam, while snakes are often symbolic of death or evil. And ladies, it's associated with us, Eve. So we have intelligence and evilness. We have the predator and the prey. And all of this conflict is brewing. What in the world is Albrecht Dürer thinking, and why would he have this in a graphic art print? He's making a larger reference to a conflict that is happening in the world, and this is key for us before next week. What he's discussing here is a conflict brewing between the people and the Christian church in Europe. At this time, other scholars, one of them very close friends of Albrecht Dürer, his name is Erasmus. At this time, scholars are writing about, Erasmus is a theologian. They are writing about this practicing of the faith and the delinquency of the Christian faith in the hands of the Pope, and this hierarchy of what is referred to as the Catholic Church. So what we're seeing here is the unrest. It's not that people are not believing in the Christian faith. They are starting to criticize those in charge of the faith. And so Albrecht Dürer, with this balance and harmony about to be broken, is making a larger reference to what is going to erupt into a religious war in Europe. And it's going to be the base of our Baroque period, defined by a Reformation and a Counter-Reformation that will go on for at least the 16th and 17th century. It will continue on in various forms beyond. But I want to stop here with Albrecht Dürer, and we're going to pick up with this slide and the Counter-Reformation and the Reformation next week.